Hi, welcome to SBR Videos. I'm Peter Loshak. We are previewing Week 2 in the NFL preseason, and we're talking with Joe Duffy from OffshoreInsiders.com. Right now we're looking at the St. Louis-Tennessee matchup. Joe Duffy from OffshoreInsiders.com. Week 1, there's a ton of unknowns in the NFL preseason. I feel like, though, in weeks 2, 3, and 4, we have more information to go on, and it's easier to find value. Would you agree with that?
Yes and no, but because so many of my systems have been consistent with what I've always felt, that number one, the public overreacts to what happened in the previous preseason game, and number two, teams that played poorly have much more of a sense of urgency than teams that played well, and there's a little bit more motivation to win. So, be careful about, putting too much emphasis on what did happen the previous week.
Maybe that will come into play here because the Rams, of course, lost 18-3 against the Raiders in Week 1. They didn't really get outgained by that much. Penalties had a lot to do with that, but the final score, they got blown out, and this, of course, is the return to Tennessee for head coach Jeff Fisher, and I've been reading a lot about that. Some people saying that, some quotes from Jeff Fisher saying that it's not a big deal at all. Other quotes I've actually read him saying that he will be emotional, that it will matter, and some people giving the opinion that even though it's a preseason game, that the players know this and that they're going to be motivated to get a win for Fisher here. So maybe if that's a factor at all, coupled with St. Louis doing poorly in Week 1, we'd want to lean with St. Louis here as a road dog, getting 1.5, 2, or 2.5. Those are all market-wide numbers right now. The market is undecided. The total's 38.5. On the other hand, Marcus Mariota, had some obvious jitters to start Week 1, but he settled down after that, probably going to be better here. And then Zach Mettenberger played very well against the Falcons, so Tennessee will probably get good quarterback play here. It's an interesting game, Joe Duffy. What's your take on these odds?
Yeah, I've seen that the Jeff Fisher thing has been played up. As far as a motivational factor, look, obviously things didn't end as well as he would have hoped there, and that's the case really with 90% of head coaches, that they never end quite as perfectly. But I don't think that Jeff Fisher has any reason to have any animus towards the Tits. I mean, he had a lot of good years there. He had some success. He did say he would be emotional, but I think it's just emotional because of a homecoming, not because he wants to take out any frustrations on anybody, much less in a preseason game. You're right. My theory that I've been espousing on quite a few of our videos, the teams that looked very poor the previous week are going to show a little bit more sense of urgency the next week. But I think in the case of Jeff Fisher, look, he's been a head coach for about 100 years, and he's been around the NFL a long time. Before that, as an assistant coach, I think he's going to be less likely to panic. Now, I do think his players are still going to show a lot more urgency. Right. But because of what you said, though, the Titans, maybe there's going to be a little more excitement in the crowd because it is the home debut of Marcus Mariota. So it might be a slightly more of a home field advantage than you're normally going to see. Plus the whole Fisher thing, I think that'll have the fans a little bit fired up and a little bit juiced up as well. So I don't really have a strong lean either way, to be honest with you at this point.
Well, then the other argument is that not that Jeff Fisher necessarily will care about a win, but even if he says he doesn't care, maybe the players in their minds think they do. They're the ones who are obviously playing, and if the players want to hand him a win, no matter what, nothing he says is going to make them not do that, right?
But I think by the time you get to the third or fourth string, these guys are playing for their jobs anyway, and they're going to be playing against guys who are playing for their jobs. That might be, true in a regular season game, maybe in an NBA game where a team's playing 3 games in 4 nights, they have something to rally around. But I don't know. I think a lot of people are grasping for straws. But what you said is true. Look, I think Mariota will certainly want to impress. Mettenberger, one of these guys with a great young arm. He hasn't necessarily been able to translate it into as much production as he would like. But, yeah, he's certainly got a guy with a lot of talent who's got something to prove. So I might like your theory more there than I do the Jeff Fisher theory. Also, one thing that's consistent with what I have said, that when you have a road team that scored 6 points or less in their last game, it's actually going over at a 40-18 margin, which says is that, the Rams offense might be the one that'll have a little bit more sense of urgency. So that's an angle that actually I think makes sense and dollars. So if I had any lean, it might be more towards the over.
But for the official purposes of this video, you're going to pass on this game?
I'm going to put it on your lap, Peter Loshak.
This is a tough one. Joe Duffy is officially passing on this one, so it falls on me to give an official pick. You know what I'm going to do, Joe? I'm going to take a shot with the, it's a Sunday game. I'm going to take a shot with the under 38.5, even though, I just think the way the Rams play, it's a home debut for Marcus Mariota, but I'm still guessing there's going to be relatively conservative play calling all around. I'm going to take it. It's 38.5. We did see that is kind of a high total for a week 2 preseason game. I'm going to take a shot with the under 38.5 for my official pick, Joe Duffy. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's not something I'm going to fight and kick and scratch.
Right.
If we were on, some committee making these picks, I don't know if it's a game that I'm really going to drop the gloves to talk you out of. So let's go with the under as Peter Loshak's official pick.
All right. And for Joe Duffy, officially, it's going to be a pass as of right now. But at his website, he might have a pick on this game and all the Sunday games, offshoreinsiders.com. Thanks so much, Joe.